There's something remarkable going on in a remote corner of southeast Texas. Something vast and visionary. Just above the sand dunes of Boca Chica Beach, one of the world's richest men is building starships to take humans back to the moon and onto Mars.
For the first orbital launch, our goal is to make it to orbit without blowing up. To be totally frank, if it takes off without blowing up the stand, for stage 0, that would be a victory. Please do not blow up on the stand.
I think what you're seeing is organized chaos. And what you're seeing really is the personality of Musk writ large. He doesn't really care if it's messy. He doesn't really care if it appears to be chaotic. He's trying to go forward into the future as fast as possible.
Elon Musk is building his massive starships through trial and error.
Oh God, no, no! Ah!
Starship does not have anyone on board, so we can blow things up. That's really helpful. We actually want to push the envelope, and if you don't push the envelope, you cannot achieve the goal of a fully and rapidly reusable rocket.
This year, Musk won a multi-billion-dollar NASA contract for his Starship to be their moon lander. One former NASA boss is not convinced.
The difficulty for me as a huge fan of SpaceX, but a huge skeptic about Starship is the fact that it's so big, it's so massive. If Neil Armstrong were alive today to talk to them, he would probably say, that is the dumbest thing I've ever heard.
But the self-titled chief engineer of SpaceX keeps proving his doubters wrong. It's called New Space because entrepreneurs are taking the lead, and Elon Musk is its defining genius.
I feel like he's Howard Hughes meets Edison meets Steve Jobs, a whole bunch of figureheads mashed together. And I think in the grand scheme of things, especially if he gets us to Mars, like that's probably going to be near the top of the list of historical figures.
2 weeks ago, SpaceX made history again by sending 4 civilians into orbit and bringing them back safely. Now his acolytes are convinced the wild ride with Elon Musk will take us all the way to Mars.
This is the little spot right over in here.
Even
Yeah.
Ryan and Mary Liz are rocket chasers.
So if we're lucky this morning, we might see a 70-meter tall first stage of the world's largest rocket just driving down the road. So pretty exciting morning. And we're going to set up some cameras here, hopefully to capture the beginning of rollout. Nice view.
there's really nothing like seeing this massive hardware roll down the street. I don't think people understand this is the largest, most powerful rocket that's ever existed in human history. Much larger even than the Saturn V, more powerful. And so what we always try to do is gift the awe and the actual feeling, the actual experience of what it's like to be on the side of the road right next to the rocket as it's rolling by.
All right, recording.
Inspired by Elon Musk's Starship program, the couple moved from Florida's Space Coast to Boca Chica to document each step of its evolution.
The booster is going to come out of the high bay very slowly, roll out onto this highway, Highway 4, we call it the Road to Mars, And then it's going to slowly track all the way down 2 kilometers, all the way to the launch site where the orbital launch tower is. That's waiting for the booster for its test campaign to begin.
Ready to go?
Yeah.
Okay.
You see the other 2 starships in here? I usually get up on top and see a little better.
Local surfer Jean Gore showed me the view of Starbase from the ocean, the warm waters of the Gulf of Mexico.
Good morning, Starship.
Since testing began here in 2019, Jean has filmed and photographed every launch.
Just love all the different angles you can get out here and go back and look and go, oh, that one's good.
So you weren't a big space nerd before?
Heck no.
No, nothing.
No.
You weren't into it.
Surfer.
Yeah. What is it that got into your imagination?
You just said the word imagination. The possibilities going, setting up base on Mars.
What do you think about Elon Musk?
He's cool and he's a big dork.
He's a big what?
No, I like him, man. He's so like just, I don't know, outgoing and friendly and normal.
Nothing normal about what's happening here, though.
No, man, I love it. He dreams big and goes for it.
Would you go if you could?
To where? Mars? No, there's no surf there. No.
Get into position.
Mary Liz and Ryan post their material on their YouTube channel, Cosmic Perspective, to a new generation of space enthusiasts.
We can zoom in a lot. I'm going to take some panoramas and then do some zooms.
And what did you say that one was? The
Starhopper.
one that looks like an old NASA?
Yeah. Or C-3PO, I think is.
This Star Wars throwback was the prototype of the Starship. But right now, Mary Liz is focused on a close friend who really is about to go into space.
Just 2 to 3 weeks ago, my friend Cyan came here to visit for the first time. It was her last real vacation she could take before quarantine, before getting ready for her flight on the Crew Dragon.
1, 2, 3. Got it.
And gorgeous.
It's unbelievable. Cyan Proctor was one of the Inspiration 4 civilian astronauts, chosen for a trip into orbit on another SpaceX rocket.
This is the beginning of us becoming a multiplanetary species. Like, this is ground zero for that.
And then here I am, going up.
That's what we were talking about when she and I were on the dunes. We just kept saying, man, as science communicators, we've been talking about this new era of private space travel that's coming, and that access is going to open up to private citizens around the world. But even as we're saying it, it's kind of like, God, I hope that's really true, right? And then she gets selected to go, and it's all so true.
As the Texas temperatures rise at the base, Ryan's remote cameras capture the giant booster, called Super Heavy, rolling out of the production site and then trundling down the road. It is absolutely breathtaking seeing it this close. It does change your perspective on this. I'm beginning to see what it is that draws all these people here.
It's coming down the aisle. This one has all the right stuff. This is the right love potion that the cosmos knows itself to be true. This is faith in determination. This is faith and determination for a country, for a planet, for a cosmos at an apex. This is like an apex predator right here because it's been founded based on a wave of love.
Musk is preparing Starship for its first orbital launch.
This is where you understand how different SpaceX is to NASA. Not only is this an open road, but there's virtually no security, just a flimsy yellow tape, a couple of security guards here, and just a few hundred meters away, Starship 20 itself, that's going to go into orbit, pushed there by this giant booster, number 4.
It looks like they're moving into position to lift it onto the orbital launch mount. So that's a really special treat to see. We'll see it lift. We'll actually see the 29 Raptor engines from below.
Oh my gosh, people are so tuned in to every bolt of every piece of anything that moves around at Starbase that it's like it's almost become its own level of obsession, you know? And obviously, like I have to say, I've fed that monster myself.
New space has spawned a new breed of online science communicators. As the everyday astronaut, Tim Dodd has a huge following. It helps that he caught Elon Musk's attention.
In 2019, I remember we were at a Starship event. You know, I was with the press and said, hey, I'm Tim Dodd.
Hey, Elon, Tim Dodd, the everyday astronaut.
Hey,
how are you?
How's it going? Good. You have great questions online.
Thanks, you have great answers.
Yeah, welcome.
Musk was so taken with Tim Dodd, he agreed to give him an unconventional tour of Starbase.
I'll get my camera out.
Yeah, you take a video of me.
I can take a video of this, of you guys taking a
Then
video.
you get over, make sure this is going through there. Just shoot the screen the whole time. I don't want anything else.
All right, so this is okay. So I'm being videoed here, and then the video of the video.
Oh yes, at the top.
Okay, so
Musk calls himself the chief engineer of SpaceX, and it's obvious that's no honorary title.
if you look at like the various reasons, like where we blew up starships, and you looked at the risk list, none of the reasons it blew up were on the risk list.
Really?
Yeah, it was like no. Maybe you could argue like one of them maybe was on somebody's risk list, but it wasn't brought up beforehand.
Right.
Put it that way.
Right.
I mean, there's a crazy amount of new technology happening here, and it's all evolving simultaneously. So we need to iron out like the unknowns, so to speak.
Part of that constant evolution are their own powerful Raptor engines that will lift the Starship into deep space.
This is insane.
Yeah, I won't tell you all the secrets, but since the engines are, it's hard to have people not see them.
Yeah.
This sort of maze of plumbing and wiring doesn't exist on Raptor 2.
Although it's already slimmed down a ton from like,
It used to look like a friggin' Christmas tree.
Yeah.
Like you couldn't even see the engine for all the stuff that was around
you
it.
really couldn't.
Seeing a whole like set of Raptor engines, dozens of Raptor engines in front of me is unbelievable, because 2 years ago this engine barely existed, and now they have dozens of these things and they're ramping them up like crazy.
Musk talked frankly about the trial and error process he's using to fast-track the development of the Starship.
For Starships, we're iterating rapidly in order to create the first ever fully reusable rocket, orbital rocket. Reusable in a way that is like an aircraft. That's the fundamental holy grail for making life multiplanetary.
Only Elon Musk seems to have the resources to blow up prototype starships one after the other in the pursuit of perfection.
Starship is such a blank slate. No one's really ever had that freedom when designing a rocket to just push the envelope on it and try crazy things and not care whether or not the whole thing works perfectly from front to back. And so if it fails, as long as they're learning something and realize what went wrong and can figure out why that went wrong and make sure it doesn't happen on the next one.
There's still lots of resistance in the industry, though. And there's constant lobbying about SpaceX. Like, you can't trust Musk. He's not a reliable partner. You know, they look at their rockets that have blown up, that kind of thing. It becomes more difficult to make that argument when SpaceX launches more rockets than any company in the world. You can add up all the rockets launched by other rocket companies in the United States, and it doesn't come close to what SpaceX is doing.
Since the days of the Apollo mission in the 1960s, great big rockets like the Saturn V, whose massive engines powered the lunar module into space, have been built for NASA by the aerospace establishment. Old companies long used to winning the lion's share of government space contracts.
So in the United States, the largest and most powerful companies are the biggest contractors to the U.S. government, and that's the aerospace industry. And so that's the Lockheed Martins, that's the Boeings, that's the Northrop Grummans.
The audacious rise of Elon Musk's SpaceX has totally disrupted the industry.
You had to have a little bit of a manic quality to think you could take on the Boeings and the Lockheeds and sort of, eat their lunch. One of the early engineers, a guy named Zach Dunn, described it to me as that, the existing rocket industry was kind of bucolic, classical music, everyone was kind of polite manners. And in comes SpaceX, which is this head-banging band, riffing on guitars, making as much noise and, smashing their guitars at the end of their sets.
If we lost rockets at the rate that Elon Musk loses his big Starship, NASA would have been out of business. Congress would have shut us down. If we lost one Starship, let alone 6 or however many it's been, we can't do that.
To beat the aerospace establishment, Musk had first to win over NASA, including NASA Administrator Charlie Bolden, who'd been an astronaut on the space shuttle.
In the case of shuttle, you're in a 200,000-pound spacecraft that's being pushed along by 1.5 million pounds of force. That's a lot. What I wasn't ready for was the vibration, where the rockets are just causing everything to vibrate.
The former Marine pilot was an astronaut for 14 years. In 2009, Bolden was President Obama's pick to run the space agency. After a career working for government, he wasn't ready for commercial space.
I was an extreme skeptic, extreme skeptic. I went from being the president's selection to be the NASA administrator to being probably one of the most despised people in the president's orbit because I did not fall in line. I did not fall in love with the concept of commercial space. I was not an ideologue like many around me who felt that all we need to do is take NASA's budget, take everything for human spaceflight and give it to Elon Musk and SpaceX.
The U.S. will remain the world's leader in space exploration.
There was a sharp philosophical divide at the top of NASA between Bolden and his deputy, Lori Garver.
In my view, the government doesn't need to, and therefore shouldn't, be using the public's money to develop launch vehicles when the private sector has this capability.
Garver wanted to commercialize the building of rockets, but in the US Congress, powerful political figures were opposed to the idea.
Congress threw a fit because the space shuttle was retiring in 2011, and all of those big contractors stood to lose. And so Congress people who were accustomed to having thousands of jobs in their districts, and especially around these field centers in Florida and Texas and Alabama, they were stood to lose hundreds or thousands of jobs. And so Congress said, well, let's come up with a plan that both allows NASA to build a big rocket but keeps all of those same employees employed.
The big rocket Congress ordered up is called the Space Launch System. On top of it is the Orion capsule, designed to take astronauts into lunar orbit. The whole thing will cost the US taxpayer more than $40 billion US. But it won't go all the way to the moon. The plan is for it to meet up with Elon Musk's Starship to take the astronauts down to the lunar surface. It's Kathy Leader's job to coordinate the mission.
We awarded a contract last spring to, obviously SpaceX to do a demonstration lander, and they'll be doing the first human demonstration landing on the moon. What they'll be doing is they'll be taking their human landing system up. We'll be transferring crews out of the Orion into the SpaceX human landing system and landing on the moon. And I think actually this will be a perfect example of new space and old space meeting together into a great new mission.
Except that after a decade of development, NASA's rocket still hasn't flown and is billions over budget.
Finally, after 10 years, the first rocket is almost ready. But this is an expendable rocket. It costs $2 billion per launch. It has a flight rate of at most 1 per year. So it really constrains your space program if you've got a big rocket that can only fly once a year at most.
Is that better? Or is that worse?
I think you were better before.
Speaking to the Mars Society during lockdown last year, Elon Musk was typically blunt.
Experimental rockets are just utterly stupid, in my opinion. Utterly stupid. They're a complete waste of time. People should stop wasting their time. It would be an absurd thing for them to sell a single-use aircraft, but they feel quite comfortable selling a single-use rocket.
Falcon, Starlink, LDs go for launch.
10, 9. Musk says he'll fund his ambitions to go to Mars with his controversial plans to put 40,000 communication satellites into low Earth orbit, accessing a global internet market worth more than $1 trillion US.
Right now, Mars is the only destination for humans if we want to do like Elon Musk uses the term multi-planet species. If we want to be a multi-planet species in the near term, the only place that's Earth-like, where we can go and live for long periods of time, is Mars.
In Boca Chica, the giant booster is being lifted onto its launch platform for engine testing. Environmental concerns and regulatory issues have delayed plans to put Starship into orbit, knocking Musk off his fast track.
I think if we operate with extreme urgency, then we have a chance of making life multiplanetary. Just a chance, not for sure. If we don't act with extreme urgency, that chance is probably zero. I mean, I'll be long dead before, Mars is self-sustaining, but hopefully the momentum is strong in that direction by the time I die. Hopefully, which probably isn't soon.
SpaceX looks at the rules of play and sees where it can bend them. It's really about how can I go as fast as possible. And he really runs into regulators because they're there to sort of make sure all the rules are followed. And that slows things down.
NASA has invested $2.8 billion US in Musk's 50-meter-high Starship as its moon lander. But its technology is far from proven.
This is the tentative design right now, but with the agreement of NASA, I think we may see that design evolve. Okay, and it may be better, actually.
Starship towers over the tiny Apollo lunar lander that NASA built for the first moon mission.
The Eagle has landed.
Musk is alarmingly frank about how hard it is to land such a large ship on the surface of the moon.
A big question here is can you land on the moon with the main engines? Or do you need a separate thruster system that's way up there? Basically, if you land with the main engine, are you going to dig a big ditch in the moon and then fall over because you landed in a ditch that you dug?
Hey, shot
it's like literally dig your own grave.
Yeah.
That would be obviously bad,
The difficulty for me as a huge fan of SpaceX, but a huge skeptic about Starship is the fact that it's so big, it's so massive. The lunar surface is pockmarked beyond belief. Astronauts in the lunar rovers found that, boy, it's treacherous getting around the lunar surface because we're going to places that we don't have any imagery. They'll learn when they go to the moon. Landing on them, if Neil Armstrong were alive today to talk to them, he would probably say, that is the dumbest thing I've ever heard.
Hi, Victor. Yeah, good to talk to you. Is it true that your call sign is Ike?
Yes, that is my call sign. It stands for I know everything.
If Elon Musk's Starship does go to the moon, there's a good chance Victor Glover will be on it. He's one of NASA's 18 Artemis astronauts, now training for the mission.
What would it mean to you personally to go to the moon?
Wow, that's a big question. Wow, personally, it would be the realization of a dream, but to be able to work on the surface of the moon, whoever we've sent, they're going to have a great story to tell. They're going to have a great way to connect to people all over the world because they've unified humanity behind this one really powerful idea, our generation's moonshot.
And there they are, first.
In November 2020, Victor Glover piloted a SpaceX capsule to the International Space Station.
You piloted the first operational flight of SpaceX's Crew Dragon. What do you think about the speed that they're moving at now?
I think that really fast evolution is a part of a much larger move to this new idea of space and what space can be, but also relying on the heritage of what space has been and the teamwork and the partnership that has grown out of that. It really can serve as a model for how we're going to tackle the lunar missions and how we're going to tackle moving humans onto Mars.
Sunrise on Florida's Space Coast. The rocket chasers are here to watch SpaceX launch 4 civilians into orbit. Mary Liz has written a piece for her friend Cyan, who won a place on the Inspiration 4 flight.
I composed it last night. I think it was about 1:30, 2 a.m. when I was sitting at my computer, just trying to put into sound the way that I was feeling, getting into the flow of listening to the song as I'm playing it. And I started to see Cyan take off, and then there was a contrail in the sky, and I was like, oh my God, that's gonna be her soon, achieving her dreams.
The Inspiration 4 crew, led by billionaire Jared Isaacman, who was paying for the flight, gave a final press conference.
And as we move, to the moon and Mars and beyond, we're writing the narrative of human spaceflight right now. So when we do that, we need to think about a Jedi space, a just, equitable, diverse, and inclusive space for all of humanity. Because, we're on Starship Earth and we want to bring everybody along with us.
Just even knowing someone that's riding on a rocket to space is just insane, It's just crazy.
Tim Dodd, the everyday astronaut, was here in Florida to live stream the launch.
I think it'll be pretty profound. I think it might be another level of emotion for me personally.
She's very brave, but she's an awesome woman, and she's gonna have the time of her life. I don't think I'm gonna be able to sleep for the next 3 days watching her,
Rocket chaser and surfer Gene chartered a boat for a closer look at the SpaceX rocket on its pad in Cape Canaveral.
Wow, there it is. The capsule looks so small, from here. Like a little marshmallow.
There they are, our first all-civilian crew walking out of Hangar X. They look so excited.
Minus 36 minutes, 26 seconds. Everything continues to look good.
I'm so excited to be here this evening for this launch. It's the complete cycle of a tale to get us from where it was nothing but government to where now we can actually have an all-civilian, all-commercial flight. From the same launch pad where Neil Armstrong got up, nothing goes out.
Hello and good afternoon, evening. I'm Tim Dodd, the Everyday Astronaut. You can see me sitting in the car. Welcome to my coverage of a really, really exciting mission today.
I can just see Cyan smile and I feel light inside of it. She and I have talked about it. She knows the risks and she's ready to do this.
Dragon SpaceX, confirmed crew displays are configured for launch.
SpaceX Dragon, our displays are configured for launch.
My heart is racing right now. This is getting very real.
T-minus 15 seconds.
8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Holy crap, guys.
It's pitching downrange.
shaking.
My heart is still pounding. The thought of those 3 ordinary people hurtling into space. They say it's the dawn of a new era in space travel for ordinary people like you and me. That's assuming you can find a friendly billionaire to pay for your ride. But for today, these people have allowed all of us to dream.
One small step towards Mars and beyond.
Coming up will be main engine cutoff.
I've never seen this. I've never seen a Twilight phenomenon launch like this. I wish you could see what we're seeing right now. You can see the thrusters firing from the first stage. Wow, that's incredible.